Welcome back to another episode of the Totally Unqualified podcast. I am your co-host, Jake Maltese, along with my amazing co-hosts, Luke and Gage. How you guys doing today?
Doing great. I'm feeling a lot better. I've been sick for way too long, but you know what? Packers got a dub, so inject that in my veins. I feel like I've said that 2 weeks in a row.
I'm doing significantly better as well. I was never sick to begin with, so there's that. My sunburn is gone, though. Got a little bit of color, just a little bit. Typically, I just go right back to pale, but, got a little bit to stick around. And the Saints lost by a lot, so I'm not doing as hot in that department.
I feel like I'm the perfect mesh between you two because I am also sick and I also got heavily sunburned this weekend. And also the Seahawks lost, but only by a little bit. So perfect mesh there. But yeah, we got a great episode for you guys today. We're going to be talking about obviously the week 2 games. Going to have basketball, a little bit of basketball news sprinkled in there. We're going to give our MVP candidates for up until week 2, obviously at this point. And then we're going to give our prediction for the Thursday night football game. And of course, you know how we start off every single episode. We got the Guess That Player this week. I will not be participating this week. So this is Gage's opportunity. The comeback is always starting. Every week is a new opportunity for Gage to start coming back. Hasn't happened yet, but I do have faith. I have faith.
I have faith too.
All right. Are you guys ready?
I feel like I'm almost like rooting for Gage at this point. Like I don't want to win. Like
I know story.
Yeah.
This will be the greatest comeback. They'll make a movie about this with how epic this comeback is going to be. All right. Obviously, NFL. I feel like I don't even have to specify that at this point. He went to Alabama, so that narrows down to 60% of the NFL for you guys right there.
Yeah.
Drafted in the first round in 2016. He is an offensive player.
So you said defensive tackle before the episode.
I told you I wasn't going to do it. That would be too obvious.
That's fair.
Derrick Henry.
No, not a skill position player.
Okay.
2-time Pro Bowler. Second team All Pro in 2020. Do we have any guesses so far?
Not ringing a bell.
Yeah.
Is it a lineman?
He's got to be a lineman.
It is a lineman.
Oh, shit.
And before the 2020 season, he signed a contract that made him the highest paid at his position. He is no longer the highest paid. He is no longer the highest paid, but he was at that time.
Fuck. What is his name?
Come on, Gage.
Is it Laramie Tunsil?
It's not Laramie Tunsil.
What is his name? Why can't I think of it? This is my time.
I'm blanking here. I'm absolutely blanking here.
Gage, come on, man.
Can you give us what position on the line?
Okay. Before the 2020 season, he signed a contract that made him the highest paid center in the NFL.
Center.
Oh, Frank Ragnow.
No,
fuck.
Frank Ragnow is currently the highest paid center in the NFL.
All right, now I gotta think centers. Matt Paradis.
No. You're just gonna start listing off every center.
Yeah.
No, he didn't go to Alabama.
AFC South, if it helps you. AFC South.
Ryan Kelly.
Yes, it is Ryan Kelly. There you go.
Gage, I'm sorry.
I don't care, dude.
Gage, I'm sorry.
I'm just glad it's over with.
Oh man. Fuck.
All right. I figured we had to give some linemen some love. We hadn't made any of our Guess That Player as a lineman. And I thought he was a pretty notable one. I guess I was wrong.
That's a random. Wow. That was the hardest one that we've had yet on the segment.
I guess. I mean, we got to give some linemen some love. The linemen are people too.
True.
It's 2 tough ones in a row.
I know.
One of these days, John Johnson, and then this one.
Yeah.
Wow. Next week I'm coming swinging.
Yeah. You got to give us a punter one of these days. One of you. Just throw out a punter.
You a gunner. You guys are getting a special teamer next week.
I think I could get a gunner. I think I could get that. I think I could. I think you'd be surprised. All right, let's get into our first topic. We're going to be talking some basketball for the first time in a while now. Ben Simmons just came out and said that he does not want to play a single game for the Philadelphia 76ers organization ever for the rest of his life going forward. What are your thoughts on it? Luke, let's start with you.
I mean, can you blame him? Can you blame him
Yeah.
after that game 7 against Atlanta, where he took one shot in the fourth quarter? And it wasn't even just that game. It was the last four fourth quarters combined in that series. Took one shot. You can't have a point guard that does that. And like, can you blame him because Joel Embiid, what he said in the post-game interview, he wanted him to take that shot instead of passing it up. You guys know that infamous dunk where he had a clear dunk to the basket and he passed it up. Doc Rivers, after that series, it was questionable. He was questioning the future of Ben Simmons on that team. They're just not going to win with him. They're not going to win with him. I don't know what the value they could get for him is, because Ben clearly does not want to be there. That's sort of tanking his value a little bit. I almost said the 49ers. The 76ers are in a weird position where they know that he doesn't want to play anymore. They just signed him to a huge mega contract only last season. He still has four more years under that contract. So it's just a shitty situation overall on both parties. But you know what? Ben Simmons is doing this to himself. Like, you got to learn how to shoot. He's improved since his rookie year, but not in the ways that you'd like to see. He's gotten much better defensively. Obviously, first team All Pro defense the last 2 seasons, but like, you got to be able to shoot. You got to be able to shoot in today's NBA. So we're gonna see where he plays come this season. Only less than a month away. It's crazy.
Getting close.
It is close.
Yeah.
Close.
Yeah, great defensive player. Obviously, just like Luke was talking about, he does very well in that department. But in the NBA nowadays, you have to be able to score. You just have to. I feel like going for all defense or something like that is kind of the old NBA way to look at it. Like, if I were to put this situation into NFL terms for anyone listening that only watches the NFL or something like that may not really get into basketball, it reminds me of the Carson Wentz situation last year, where he wasn't playing so hot when they needed him to. So there's all of a sudden this disconnect between he and the franchise, because the franchise shows that they're not really behind him in this situation. They're not willing to stick with him quite as much. He gets benched for Jalen Hurts. So I feel like Ben Simmons and the organization, as far as the 76ers go, are just not on the same page. The 76ers obviously don't want to keep him. He doesn't want to play for them. So now he's forcing his way out the only way that he knows how, by refusing to play for them. And I don't think they even want him to play for them anyway, but they just haven't been able to find a good trade for him thus far, because they want way too much for him to begin with, honestly. But now, just like Luke was saying, his value is only deteriorating.
Yeah, and that's not which sucks, because Ben Simmons is a very, very talented basketball player. But he's done this to himself. He did this to himself by, not being able to handle the heat. When you're playing in a market like Philadelphia, you got to be able to handle that fan base and that criticism that's going to come along with that. I mean, Eli Manning said that Philadelphia is the only city where he's seen a 6-year-old flip him off. I mean, that's the type of shit you're dealing with when you play for a Philly team. So he doesn't seem to have the mental toughness to deal with it, regardless. And wherever he goes, I don't think he should play point guard anymore. I don't. He's such a good distributor, and it sucks to say that, but a point guard in today's NBA has to be able to shoot. His natural position anyway is more of a 3 or 4. So I could see any team that he goes to hopefully using him in that kind of position, put him closer to the basket, so maybe he doesn't have to shoot so much. So that would be the best way I could see to use him, whatever team he does end up going to. But I just hope whatever team he goes to does not try to use him in the point guard position, because I just think it's going to lead to more issues with him. Or he's just got to teach himself how to fucking shoot. He should have done that already. He should have done that already. LeBron wasn't the best shooter coming into the NBA, but he taught himself how to be a better shooter. Now he has a pretty damn good 3-point shot. He didn't always have that. You can be taught this stuff. There are plenty of players in NBA history that weren't great shooters that learned to shoot. It's happened before multiple times. Do you guys agree with me that wherever he goes, he most likely shouldn't play the point guard position? What do you guys think of that?
Like, I'd like to see that, but he's just such a big advantage at the point guard.
Yeah.
Like, on defense and offensively, he's 6'11", and he could distribute the ball like with the best of them. That's the only tidbit. I would like to see him though as like a 3 or a 4. If you put him on a team with another elite point guard, have him play off ball, then he wouldn't have, all the pressure on the world on his hands because he's not the guy that has to lead that offense. So it's going to be interesting to see, definitely, for sure.
I think that's the best option for him, really, is going somewhere where he can be the 3 or 4. And obviously he doesn't have much say in it, but thus far, like the Warriors and the Trailblazers have been 2 of the biggest players in this whole thing. And I think those would both be great teams for him because they have Damian Lillard, they have Steph Curry. So those guys can distribute the ball and stuff just fine, and they can score just fine. You get Ben Simmons in a situation where he can slash from the outside and drive and just stay in the paint or anything like that. He's perfectly capable of dunking or laying it in or whatever the case may be. And he's got the size. And I feel like his distributing doesn't go to waste in that position. You know what I mean? It's just an added thing for him. Look at a guy like Nikola Jokic. He's a center and he's distributing just as well. So I like it.
Definitely a sad situation for Philly, though. They had all those first overall picks, and both of them are now off of the team, and Markelle Fultz and Ben Simmons, who will eventually be off the team. But they still got a great team regardless. So that's one of the few situations where it actually isn't going to hurt them as much.
It also makes you wonder, though, like, what the hell's going on in Philadelphia that they're just ruining these guys?
I know. Well, it really came down both situations. It was the shooting. I mean, Markelle Fultz for a completely different reason. Obviously, it was medical with him, but like Ben Simmons, shooting. Listen, if you don't know how to shoot and you are not a center, it's going to come back to bite you in the ass in today's NBA. Absolutely. Even centers are learning how to shoot. Look at Jokic. Look at Joel Embiid, who can hit a 3. Anthony Davis. Like, all these guys know how to shoot. It's pretty embarrassing at this point, honestly.
So where would you guys like to see him end up?
I want him on the Blazers because I like Damian Lillard, big Damian Lillard guy, and I want to see him get that help. I want to see them do something to try and keep him there.
Yeah, you stole the words right out of my mouth, Gage. I was going to say Portland Trail Blazers. I think they're the front runners for him right now. I don't want to see him go to the Warriors for the sole fact that I don't want to see the Warriors be good again. I mean, they're already getting Klay Thompson back this year. I mean, cross your fingers that he'll stay healthy through the preseason. But
and the Warriors have the come bucket, so
exactly.
True.
So, I mean, they don't even exactly. So they really don't even need him.
I mean, Ben pretty much is just like a younger, way more athletic Draymond Green, without like any of the mindset that Draymond Green has. I mean, that's basically his
kicking
position.
People in the nuts.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Ben Simmons is more of a player that would be kicked in the nuts than a player that
there you go.
He'll be distributing the nut kicking.
He'd be on the receiving end of that.
Exactly.
I'd like, if he's gonna get traded to a team and be the primary ball handler, I would like to see it be the Wizards because I feel like him for Bradley Beal is a pretty good trade for both teams. If not, if he's gonna be playing more off ball. And you guys probably gonna hate this, but like the Nets make a lot of sense. I know Kevin Durant would never want to let Kyrie get traded like that, but a Kyrie for Ben Simmons trade, Kyrie's a distraction for that team. Like as much as people don't want to admit, he's an absolute distraction, probably for whatever team he's going to be on. As good as he is, I would like to see that trade happen. I think Ben fitting in there, that would be insanity right there.
The only reason that I would like that is for the defense. If I'm the Nets, that would be the sole reason, because I feel like with James Harden and Kevin Durant both there, you don't need the scoring really. You don't need the distributing at all. He would be there solely to lock guys up, which I mean isn't a bad thing, but I don't know. I don't know that it's worth all that.
Yeah, I mean, is there any superstar that you remember that has been just thrown around like Kyrie Irving has throughout his career? I mean, at that point, he'd be on his fifth team. I mean, that's crazy.
His choice, though.
I mean, Shaq.
I know
he's choosing to move around. Yeah, Shaq.
Too.
There's still guys playing in the finals.
Shaq wasn't in his prime, though. Shaq wasn't in his prime. I mean, Shaq had the Magic, and then he was on the Lakers for most of his prime. Yeah. And then I guess the Heat. I guess when he won the championship with the Heat.
Yeah, and then he just started becoming the rainbow memes. The rainbow memes of all of the jerseys.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, crazy. That would be a crazy situation. I just don't want to see the Nets get anybody else. They're done. Like kind of like the Lakers. Just stop it. Just stop it with the additions. Okay, we get it. You have a bunch of superstars. In terms of the Lakers, you have a bunch of senior citizen superstars on your team. Like we get it. We understand. You could stop now. All right. Enough of the basketball talk. Let's get into some football. So we know some teams now that are 2-0 that we did not expect to be 2-0. There are teams that are 0-2 that we also didn't expect to be 0-2. And then you got teams in the middle that are 1-1, but we don't really care about them. So we're going to go through first which teams that are 2-0 that you think are frauds and still haven't convinced you that they're a team that deserves to be undefeated at this point. So Gage, I'll start with you.
Okay. The 2-0 team that I just don't have that much confidence in, that I think there is a fall off coming, is the 49ers.
Damn it.
Between the tough schedule and the injuries coming along with it. I mean, they lose Jason. We've talked about it a bunch of times. They lose Jason Barrett. They lost Raheem Mostert. They've got, plenty of guys in that backfield who are also getting injured all over the place now, by the way. But just with the injuries, with the strength of schedule, with the past couple of weeks, even going up against teams that we don't view as like that great in the Lions and the Eagles, and they struggled to pull out wins against both of them. I think that it's imminent as they go forward and they face these tougher teams. I think there's going to be a lot of L's in that column.
Damn, stole the words right out of my mouth. All right, I'm gonna go with the Niners. Damn, I thought none of you guys were gonna go with the Niners. That's why I was picking them. All right. Well, I got another team in mind. The 2-0 team that resides in Denver, Colorado, the Denver Broncos, are the biggest frauds at 2-0, mainly because who have they played? They're going to go 3-0 this week when they play the Jets. But like the Giants week 1, I mean, Daniel Jones is nothing to ride home about. I mean, yeah, I say right home. Jesus. Broncos versus Jags. I mean, come on now. They got the Jets this week. Like I said, they're going to go 3-0, but their schedule is going to get a lot tougher. I mean, listen to this: Ravens, Steelers, Raiders, who are also 2-0, which is crazy. Browns, and you got Washington in their front seven. The Cowboys are no slouches either. You got the Chiefs twice too. Like, I just see a lot of losses coming their way, and they have a game manager at quarterback. Like, I'm not expecting Teddy Bridgewater to be this end all be all guy and like bring them to the playoffs. It's like, I thought the Broncos were going to make the playoffs last year. I thought that was their year. But now that their defense is coming together, we'll see. I think they are the biggest frauds right now, and they're going to be the biggest 3-0 frauds come next week too. So
I'm shocked that none of you took who I thought was the most obvious choice here in the Las Vegas Raiders. I don't think anybody had the Raiders going 2-0 to start the season, especially the fact that they had the Ravens come to their house in week 1 and then had to go to Pittsburgh in week 2. I mean, that's a tough start to the schedule. And as impressive as it is, you did have some moments where the Ravens, I would argue, did not play to their full potential in that game. They really didn't look like the Ravens. They weren't really as well coached as we know they are. Lamar had a very uncharacteristic 2 fumbles. Like, it was a game with a lot of mishaps, and it did go down to the wire. And then Pittsburgh, very tough environment to play in, so I got to give them credit for that. But Pittsburgh isn't, aside from their defense, their offense is nothing too special. I'm gonna say that they have impressed me through 2 weeks, so they're not frauds in that sense, but they're frauds in the sense of the fact that I can't see them, being able to keep this up going forward. Yeah. I can't see them sustaining this level of just winning, honestly. There's too many question marks on that defense, even though the defense has played well, especially Max Crosby. The offensive line has played better than I thought. Derek Carr, we'll talk about him a little bit later, but Derek Carr has been playing phenomenally to start the season. I really did not expect him to play that well, but they're in a pretty tough division with the Chargers and the Broncos and obviously the Chiefs. And I just can't see them sustaining this going forward. But I do give them credit for winning these last 2 weeks, but I just think they're frauds in the sense that they're fooling us into thinking they're going to be a good team this year. I don't think they're going to be that good of a team this year.
Yeah, the Raiders have a way of like beating big teams or teams that they shouldn't beat and then losing to teams that they shouldn't lose to. So
Exactly.
I just have no trust in John Gruden. But that being said, I think the Raiders were the most impressive teams one of the most impressive teams through 2 weeks. I mean, beating the Ravens at home on primetime Monday night, nobody had them winning that game. And it was a little fluky in overtime, but still, for Derek Carr to have that sort of performance in that spotlight, I thought was impressive. And then going to Pittsburgh against their front seven, their elite defense, and Derek Carr dropping just a rope to Henry Ruggs, which basically sealed the game. Maybe it's more of Derek Carr that's impressing me than like the Raiders as a whole, but I feel like they're playing really good situational football right now. And, it'll probably come down to some divisional losses for them, which will, break their backs, but they are impressing me right now, at least through 2 weeks.
Yeah, absolutely. So now we're going to flip it and talk about some teams that started 0-2 that we think are going to bounce back. So Luke, you want to start us off with that?
Yeah. And I'm going to go with the team that my team just beat on Monday Night Football, the Green Bay Packers. And when I mean bounce back, I mean this in a weird sense where, like, I think they'll get 5 wins. I think 6 wins is what we're looking at, but that's better than 0-2. That's better than 0 wins like they have right now. The Lions are building something. It's under the dirt. It's buried 6 feet under, but something's coming out. I think they have the head coach to build that sort of culture. They have some of the players there. Jamal Williams is definitely a culture building type player. They are impressing me. And with the weapons that Jared Goff has, it's not like he's going to be putting up like crazy, ridiculous numbers, but what he's doing with the guys that he does have, I mean, Quintez Cephas is looking like a solid receiver. TJ Hawkinson has become an elite tight end. I think they have some good pieces on that team offensively and defensively. It's still going to, take a couple years for them to really come to fruition. But in terms of like bouncing back, I could definitely see them getting a couple upset wins over the next 16 weeks of the season. And Dan Campbell is the guy to lead them. I love him. I don't love Jared Goff at quarterback. He showed me he impressed me at some points, and then he'll come back and he's the goofball. I mean, he's going to make a bunch of plays. I just want to say real quick, because we're not talking about the Packers on the show, but like the Packers' first sack of the season, they didn't have one last week. The first sack of the season was when Jared Goff strip sacked himself and tapped the ball in the pouring rain, and he strip sacked himself, which was just the most Jared Goff thing ever. But I could definitely see the Lions coming back and definitely getting a lot of upset wins here.
I feel like you can't really call Jared Goff like average, because he has really high highs and then really low lows. There's nothing in the middle. It's just either really good or really bad. So, but I like that. I agree that I think the Lions are definitely building something, and they're going to get better as they go forward, especially with the picks that they've acquired. For me, I'm going to go with the Colts. I think that in week 1, they have a tough opponent in the Seahawks. They weren't ready for that offense to come out the way that they did. And they, were getting adjusted. Carson Wentz has been out and stuff like that. And then in week 2, Carson Wentz does get injured, but they had a very good game against the Rams. They played fairly well. Their defense had some struggles getting some stops, but they did start to come back. Carson Wentz goes out. Jacob Eason comes in. They end up losing the game late. So I think if Carson Wentz can stay healthy, they're starting to get into a bit of a groove, and I think that they're going to figure some things out. I think they have the potential to come back, especially in a division that I think is weak anyway in the AFC South.
Yeah, I mean, the Colts were definitely a team that we know is loaded, in especially defensively. They proved that last year with obviously the rise of DeForest Buckner over there. And they got the talent to do it. I think it all comes down to Carson Wentz, and if he stays healthy.
Why is he made out of glass? Now,
how do you sprain both of your fucking ankles at the same time?
And one of them is a high ankle sprain, one of them is a low ankle sprain. Like, what the fuck? Like, have you ever heard any of this? It's crazy.
No, it's ridiculous.
No, I don't know what his training regimen is, but he's got to change it. Like, I don't know what's going on there. If he has to wear like braces
or something.
Yeah,
something. Did you not drink? You lived in North Dakota. I thought that would be all you drank while you were over there. But anyway, I mean, Carson Wentz aside, I'm going to go with the Minnesota Vikings for my 0-2 team to bounce back. They played 2 super close games to start out the season. They went into overtime against the Bengals. Then they went to Arizona, and they were a missed field goal away from winning that game. So it's been some tough losses for the Minnesota Vikings, but this is a very talented team. Kirk Cousins played very well against the Cardinals. I mean, there's talent everywhere you look on this team. I can't remember. Did Anthony Barr played? Has been playing, right? He's not injured, right?
He didn't play last game. He was out.
Okay. He didn't play last game. He's out.
They were without they were without him and Everson Griffin in that game.
Gotcha. Yeah, I knew about Everson Griffin. Okay, so yeah, Anthony Barr was obviously a big blow. They're going to need him back, but Dalvin Cook, I believe, is also banged up. I think he'll be playing this week though, so that's good. But yeah, the team's got talent everywhere. Mike Zimmer is a good head coach. He's brought this team to the playoffs plenty of times. Kirk Cousins is good enough to get you there. It's not like the Bears or the Lions are really threatening you in that division. At least the Bears not for now, and the Lions the same thing. So they should have a relatively easy path to get there. But I think this team is a lot better than 0-2. They definitely had the closest games to start the season, and if a few things had gone their way, then maybe we could potentially be talking about them as a 2-0 team if just a couple of things had gone their way. So I'm definitely looking at the Vikings to be one of those teams that bounces back.
Yeah, I mean, the only thing that holds me back from about the Vikings is their head coach, Mike Zimmer. I said last week or in the last episode, if they go 0-2, he's got to be put on the hot seat. They went 0-2, but it's like, are they really 0-2 or are they 1-1 because of the missed field goal? I mean, what are you going to do about that? By the way, whoever their announcer is who called that the field goal went in, imagine listening on the radio to the radio call, the Minnesota Vikings game. You're freaking out because they just hit a game-winning field goal. Oh, wait, they didn't because your announcer messed up. Top 5 call all time. All time.
Oh, my God.
Yeah, that's why you wait until they give the signal of whether or not it was hit or missed.
Yeah.
It was awesome.
The biggest thing for the Vikings for me is just their strength of schedule, because going forward over the next few weeks, they have got some tough games. Obviously, they played very well against a team that I hold in high regard so far in the Cardinals, and they keep it very close. Like Luke said, losing only off of that missed field goal. But I don't know. Maybe if they can get these health issues figured out, they can get guys like Everson Griffin and Anthony Barr back on the field and keep them on the field. They can obviously contend, but we'll have to see what happens.
Got to get Dalvin Cook going.
As I talk about the Vikings bouncing back, I'm now hoping they go 0-3 this week as they play the Seahawks, as I just realized. Unfortunate for them. But anyway, now we're going to get into some random rankings. This week, we're going to be doing MVP candidates, pretty much way too early MVP candidates as we're at the week 2 mark. So, Gage, you want to start us off?
Yeah, sure. I'll start at 3 and then just work my way up, I guess. At my number 3 spot, I have got Kyla Murray. 9 touchdowns, 3 interceptions, 689 yards thus far. Has been playing very well. Obviously, those turnovers are a little bit of a concern, but not huge, especially when you're putting up that amount of touchdowns. He's leading his team to these wins. You know, he's getting them there with his legs, with his arm. So I like him a lot for that. At number 2, I've got Russell Wilson. He's got 6 touchdowns to his name, but he's also got 0 interceptions. He's got 597 yards, so not quite as much there, but he hasn't really needed to have as much. He is leading the league in passer rating currently, so he's definitely up there like he typically is at this point in the season. And then at number 1, as much as I hate to do it, Tom Brady. Tom Brady has got to be my number 1 right now. 9 touchdowns, 2 interceptions, 655 yards. The guy is balling out. He hasn't played the toughest of defenses, obviously, but he's connecting with everybody, firing on all cylinders, and he looks very, very good.
Yeah, that's fair. I don't have Tom Brady on my list because absolutely not. I want to see, can we get some like different awards and it just not be quarterbacks? I hate the MVP award.
Yeah.
And for that very reason, at number 3, I have Cooper Kupp. Cooper Kupp has been the best receiver in the league through 2 weeks. Cooper Kupp has been ridiculous. 100 yards and a touchdown week 1 against Chicago. And then he went 9 for $163 and 2 touchdowns against Indianapolis. Those are 2 really good defenses. Chicago's secondary is a little iffy, but like those are still 2 really great defenses. And number 2, I got Kyler Murray. Kyler Murray, like you said, Gage, has been ridiculous. He was a dark horse MVP for pretty much everybody, and now he's really starting to take the league over. Oh, I love that little Baby Yoda touchdown celebration that he did on that rushing touchdown. He's like a receiver he's like a receiver playing quarterback because you just can't catch up to him. He's such a unique quarterback, different than Lamar Jackson because he could actually throw. Derek Carr is my number one MVP candidate. Derek Carr has been playing out of his mind. Derek Carr has been playing out of his mind. Like I said, the Raiders have been the most impressive team to me through 2 weeks. And Derek Carr is the biggest reason why. He leads the league in passing yards. He's just going crazy. I talked about it earlier, but that rope to Henry Ruggs to basically win them the game against the Steelers. He was my MVP in 2016 before he got hurt. I thought he should have won it. I thought he was the leader the entire season. And you know what? He's coming back 5 years later and he's snatching it. Give me Derek Carr through week 2. We still got 15 weeks to go.
Yeah. I really like that Cooper Kupp, involvement in the MVP conversation because he's been awesome, man. He's been awesome. I have him on 2 of my fantasy teams, and he is. Oh, God bless.
He's making Matt Stafford look good for me.
Oh yeah. But anyway, for my MVP picks at number 3, okay, I'm gonna have Tom Brady. I am gonna have Tom Brady at number 3. I mean, he's doing what he always does. He's played very well up to this point. I don't really got to say much. I mean, it's amazing that he's doing this at 44 years old. He's the GOAT. There's no discussion about it. I never thought I'd be including a 44-year-old in my top 3 MVP picks ever in my life. But I mean, that's Tom Brady for you. At number 2, okay, I am going to put Kyla Murray. He's been doing awesome, obviously, with the Cardinals. Him and Cliff Kingsbury, I have had some questions about Cliff Kingsbury's offense, but it's looked good this year. It has looked good this year. The defenses he's played haven't been phenomenal, but Kyle Murray, we know he's that talented, and I expect great things going forward. And that number 1, I'm going to agree with you with Derek Carr. He's played the best of any of the quarterbacks I've seen so far. I mean, it may be a shock to not have Patrick Mahomes on this list, but just the fact that Derek Carr has won these 2 games and been a big reason of why he's led his team to win these 2 games when nobody thought they would. Maybe some people thought against the Steelers, but I'm telling you, nobody thought they'd beat the Ravens. Nobody. So that's just a credit to him. He's played really, really well to start the season. And yeah, I know it sucks to be that it's a quarterback's award, but at this point it is. And those are my 3 guys right now. Patrick Mahomes and Russell Wilson, honorable mentions right now, as well as Sam Darnold. Sam Darnold's played phenomenally. Just want to put that out there. Beat the Saints this week. Obviously, they're missing 2 of their starting corners, but we're not going to mention that.
I love that. That's my favorite take. I've hated it at first. Now I love it. I'm rooting for you.
Yeah. I know, because it's going well. There's been nothing to prove me wrong throughout the first 2 weeks. I mean, Sam Darnold's played really well. He's looked really good in that offense. The Carolina Panthers are off to a 2-0 start. This is what I said. I don't think it's crazy that the Panthers could get off to like a 6-2 start and Sam Darnold be in that, top 5 MVP conversation. So I'm on track for that to be correct right now, because Sam Darnold is in my top 6 MVPs right now. Just saying. But all right, let's move on to our highlighted games of the weekend. I guess we'll start out with Seahawks Titans. I didn't want to, but why don't you guys? One of you, Luke, go ahead, so I don't have to. I can gather my emotions. Right now.
You don't want to start off with this one?
No, take it. I gotta take a breather.
Yeah. So Derrick Henry. And Derrick Henry. Basically, that's what the game was. He just took over, and that's what we've been accustomed to seeing the past couple seasons. Is he is a monster among men. Like, he is just abnormal. There's no more that you could say. He's just ridiculous. The Seahawks, obviously, valiant effort, went into overtime, but I'd like to see some more out of their defense, because you didn't see Ryan Tannehill play all too well last week, and I felt that that could have leaked into week 2, especially since they were playing in Lumen Field. Disgusting. Yeah, they just didn't come out and close the game like they should have. But hey, you know who got going? Julio Jones got going. If Julio Jones could keep this pace, this is why I picked Ryan Tannehill to win the MVP, because that makes this offense 100,000,000% more dynamic. AJ Brown had a rough game, but Julio definitely picked up the slack for him. Looked like that number one receiver from 2015, from 2016, from the 2010s that we all know and love. It was just a rough one. It was a rough finish for the Seahawks. There's not much more you could say. I feel like they should have won this game, especially being that it was at home. It was a close one between two really good football teams. So
the Seahawks defense sold is basically what happened down the stretch, and they started off really solid. Like, I don't want to take everything away from them because they looked good in the first half, but down the stretch, they just couldn't keep it up. The Titans defense persisted like they tend to do with Derrick Henry, just kept running it in your face. And eventually it got them where they needed to be. It put them in a position to win the game. And that's what they did. We said that this game was going to be a scoring race all last week when we were talking about it. And that's exactly what it ended up being in the long run. I think there's definitely some good things for the Seahawks. You know, obviously the offense looks very, very good. Tyler Lockett is that fucking guy.
mm-hmm.
The defense just has to keep it up, is pretty much their one need for success. The O-line is holding up pretty well from what I saw. Chris Carson got into the end zone a couple times, and he, is staying healthy thus far, which is always a good sign for them. So for the Seahawks, some good things. For the Titans, some good things, especially considering that they play in a weak division with the Texans and the Jaguars. I think they've got some good things coming up as well. Julio Jones, that was a fucking touchdown. I don't care. But
really, you think so?
Yes, bro. It was a touchdown.
I think his heel was out. I thought his heel was out
too.
If he wore white cleats, it was a touchdown.
Fair.
That's how close it was. I'll say that much at least.
Right.
But yeah, great game. Didn't go in Jake's favor, obviously, but good one.
All right. This was tough. This was a tough one for me, just because the emotional swing that I took from watching the first half and even watching the beginning of the third quarter where the Titans blew coverage and Freddie Swain got that big touchdown. It was 30-16. I was like 30-16, 30. It was around there. I forget what the score was. I was feeling confident. I was like, okay, we got this in the bag. Then King Henry came into effect, and Jesus Christ, I saw the prime years of Marshawn Lynch. I saw beast mode. I think Derrick Henry is the most dominant running back I've seen in some time now. Aside from, this is Adrian Peterson level of just dominance. Like, it's insane. Yeah, we don't have the best D-line, but in the first half we were containing him pretty well. So that's why I'm not giving our defense any excuses there. You knew what they were doing. They were just running it down our throat and wearing us out. And then eventually we got worn out. And on top of that, I also want to talk about the penalties. The penalties were absolutely unacceptable. You cannot have 10 penalties for 100 yards in a game and expect to win it. You can't. That's completely just, you can't have that. It's very undisciplined football. Don't even get me started on the taunting penalties. Those are ridiculous. Oh my gosh. It was DJ Reed, literally. He didn't exactly prevent the throw, but it was kind of an overthrow, and he kind of like flexed on AJ Brown. Literally, he looked over them and he went like that, and they threw a 15-yard penalty on it. These taunting calls are absolutely ridiculous. I hate them. And that was part of our penalty.
Did you hear what Julian Edelman had to say about the taunting penalties?
What'd he say? No.
Rules are rules. You gotta follow. He's definitely still got that fucking Patriots mentality. That Bill Belichick's hand up his ass, working his mouth for him. Come on.
Yeah.
It's part of the game.
Like, I get it. There's some taunting. There's some times where players went a little bit over the line with their taunting. But if you're gonna look at a guy and just kind of flex on him a little bit, that's what people have been doing that throughout football. I do that to my friends when I play football with them. Like that, it's the weakest taunting I've ever seen in my entire life. It's kind of just a natural reaction when you get the best of somebody in a way. It was stupid. But a big part of this was Russell Wilson really didn't play his best going into the fourth quarter. He was missing some throws, which is very uncharacteristic of him. And then Chris Carson, he got the 2 touchdowns. So if you had him in fantasy football and weren't watching the game, you might have thought he had a good game. He didn't. The Titans did a really good job containing him. We really couldn't get the ground game going, which our offense, it's very much predicated on the play action. So you've got to get the ground game going for that to work. And we just couldn't. The Titans are a very well-coached football team. I said this last week with Mike Vrabel. I fully expected this to be a very close game. I fully expected them to play way better going into this game, and they did. They made the halftime adjustments. The Seahawks had the penalties. They need to be coached better. Pete Carroll needs to get on their ass for the taunting. Even though I don't agree with it, they need to be coached better than that. There were a couple offensive line mistakes with false starts, and it was a sloppy football game altogether for us. This was a game. I'm not so disappointed because Titans are good. And this is a game we should have won. If a couple things go our way, we do win it. So yeah, I'm not entirely disappointed. I'm more just kind of, the team's got to get their shit together. That's it. All right. That's all I have to say about that game.
Yeah. Quick note on the taunting rules. It's crazy how big of a sociopath Roger Goodell is, because he's going to wait till the end of the season probably to like reject this rule and just, reverse it, bring it back to the old days, and think that he's the fucking hero. Think that, oh man, I saved the day. It's the rule that you put in place. Like I saw something on Twitter today. This isn't just from taunting. This is just from refs inserting themselves into the game. Through 2 weeks, this is the most penalties ever called. They had to assess, I think, 214 penalties through 2 weeks. I think last year it was 198. It just keeps going up. You know what? I actually do watch the games for the refs. I don't put my Green Bay Packers jersey on. When I watch football games, I put my fucking black and white on, and I want to see the refs. I want to see them talk. I want to see them talk to the crowd. I want to see them do some crazy hand motions. Like, that's why I watch football. Absolutely not. Fuck you, Roger Goodell. I hope you're listening. But if you are listening, I would love a job, by the way. But also, fuck you.
Yeah, it goes back to the over officiating thing, because the fans, I was going to make a video on this. There's not a single close game in history that has ever happened in any single sport that fans have not blamed the refs for their loss. Not a single sport, not a single game. If it was close towards the end, the fans are going to say some shit about the refs that cost them the game. And what is that leading to? It's leading to over officiating. The league doesn't want to hear that shit. The league doesn't want games to be affected by the refs, which is in turn causing them to be more affected by the refs, because they're going to call that weak shit. Roughing the passer, I can't even describe how much I despise that penalty. There are some shit, and yeah, sometimes it's benefited the Seahawks, and I'm not going to say anything about that. But obviously there are some cases where I'll look at that and be like, just tackle them. Like, what did you expect him to do?
Yep.
I think Jamal Adams got called for roughing the passer, and like, he was running full speed at Ryan Tannehill. What do you expect him to do? You expect him to just stop on a dime and just be like, oh, sorry, yeah, I'm not going to hit. No, he's got to run through him. It's what's got to happen. It's physics. It's momentum. He can't stop himself on a dime, or else they're going to get injured.
Making it impossible to play defense in today's NFL. It's impossible.
Exactly. Literally, players are being coached now. Like, when it's the end of games, send your 2 outside receivers deep, throw it up. You're probably going to get a pass interference. I want to see a stat on that. Because most of the time, if it's one-on-one, somebody's going to get flagged through. It's going to happen.
Especially if you're a notable receiver too. If you're a notable receiver, they're throwing that flag. You don't catch it, the flag's coming out. Come on. All you got to do is put your hands up to the refs and look at them.
My biggest thing with the taunting stuff is, like, I just don't understand the point of it. Like, most rules, when they change them, they're for preventative reasons. What is this preventing by them calling these? It's not doing anything for anyone. Yeah. Sportsmanship. Okay. Yeah. I can understand certain things. Like, if it's not, I don't want to say bullying, but if it's like, if you're straight up being an asshole, like if you're being like, when we played the Bears last season, our DBs were like going like this to Tariq Cohen, like calling him short and stuff like that. Stuff I can kind of understand. It's totally unnecessary. But as far as like the flexing and all that, just let it happen.
Yeah.
Your
It's
DBs
a
did more than just that. I mean,
yeah.
Hey, look, he threw the first
I mean,
punch. All right.
yeah, that's true. That's true. He threw the first punch. No, it's just crazy because it's just whenever I grew up playing sports, and it's just a natural reaction. Like when you get the
Yeah.
best of somebody, you're gonna rub it in. You're gonna rub it in your face for a split second, but then they're gonna walk away. Like what
Yep.
DJ Reed did. He literally just and then he walked away, and the ref threw the flag. Like what do you stop that? Nobody looks at that and says, how dare he? How dare he do that? How about make a play? How about catch the fucking ball? Then guess what? You're not going to get taunted on. It's like with Cam when he used to dab and everybody was pissed off. You don't want to see him do it. Don't let him score. It's stupid. It's stupid. All right, guys, I digress. We do have to talk about some of the other games that happened this week. It wasn't just Titans Seahawks. Let's talk about the Raiders and Steelers. We kind of touched upon the Raiders earlier. What did you guys think of that game? Luke, you want to start off?
I just think they're so impressive. I really do. It was unfortunate Darren Waller didn't get 100 yards because he would have been the first tight end in NFL history to have 5 straight 100-yard games, which is kind of weird. I feel like that would have happened with all the talented tight ends we've had in the NFL, but I digress. They won it off a play. I talked about it earlier, the bomb to Henry Ruggs. That's why they drafted him, for plays like that. He's finally showing out. Like he's finally putting that sub 4.3 speed on the field. It was a great play, great route, great throw. The Steelers offense is bad. It's bad. And Big Ben Roethlisberger is a really big part of that. The reason why he just can't get it done anymore. He's got to be the most immobile quarterback in the league, like even more immobile than Tom Brady, which is crazy. I don't know why they would go ahead and draft Najee Harris without putting an offensive line in front of him. He's running basically behind fucking fence posts. Like that's crazy. He has nowhere to run. I don't know why people thought he was going to have some crazy season like rookie of the year. He was not. He is getting introduced into the passing game, which is good to see because that's not something that you were, trained to see at Alabama. But it just comes down to this Steelers offense is anemic, and they're not going to be able to keep up with some of these more high-powered offenses. I feel like they're sort of the opposite of a lot of the teams in the NFL, where they're actually relying on their defense more than they are on their offense. And they're not going to win games like that. Not in today's NFL, not when they're playing the Chiefs, not when they're playing the Ravens, the Browns. I just don't think the Steelers team is that good. I don't think they're that good. Love some of the pieces they have on defense, but when their defense doesn't show up when they need them to, this team just isn't going to win games.
I really couldn't agree with that more. I mean, you pretty much took the words right out of my mouth. They are so reliant on their defense, and if their defense can't play up to par, they're going to lose these games. That's just the fact of the matter. I mean, you see TJ Watt go out with an injury in this game. The Raiders absolutely take over, and they win this game with ease, pretty much. I mean, they put up somewhat of a fight, but like that offense just can't get it done. And I feel like the biggest parts of that are the offense, or the O-line sucks, and Big Ben just can't play the way that he used to play. It's time to move on from him. And it's time to put an O-line in front of Najee Harris, and I think they'll still have a good team.
Yeah, I mean, I expected the Steelers offense to be pretty dreadful going into the season, and that's exactly what they've been. Their defense has bailed them out more than I thought they would. But that offensive line has issues. I totally agree with everything you guys are saying, that Big Ben is done. He is done. This is his last year.
I had people trying to tell me that Big Ben was still the best quarterback in the AFC North before the season started.
That's stupid.
No, he's legitimately the worst. He's the worst.
He is. Yeah. He is the worst.
He is by far the worst at this point.
Yeah, he has a 34 quarterback rating, which is 28th in the league, which is abysmal. That is terrible. He had an even worse quarterback rating in this game, 29.6. So that just tells you all you need to know about how Ben Roethlisberger is playing. Yeah, I mean, enough about the Steelers, though. The Raiders are playing great. It's so nice to see Henry Ruggs finally have that game where he looked like a first-round pick, where he looked like the star of that offense, aside from Carr, obviously, because this is what they drafted him for. They drafted him for games like this with 5 receptions for 113 yards, averaging 22 yards reception. Like that's why you get these speed guys. And Henry Ruggs, he wasn't like a Darius Hayward Bay coming out or any of those guys where they couldn't play a receiver. They were just fast. He's a good receiver. He was a great receiver at Alabama. He can run routes. He's fast. He's an all around great receiver. And it really, if it wasn't for the injuries, I think he would be more up to speed at this point and be performing like this more often. So this is nice to see. Shout out to Solomon Thomas on the defensive side for having 2 sacks and just absolutely like dominating this game on the defensive side of the football. He had 3 quarterback hits, former number 3 overall pick. So it's nice to see that from him.
I was about to say, your offensive line is bad when you're giving up 2 sacks to Solomon Thomas, because I legit didn't think Solomon Thomas was signed to a team. I thought he was out.
Yeah.
I thought he was a free agent.
I didn't know that either, to be honest.
Yeah. So yeah, that just tells you how bad the Steelers O-line is. I was also on the Najee Harris hate. I don't want to call it hate. I would say, because I like Najee Harris as a player, but on that Steelers team, I never thought he was going to get anything done with that offensive line, especially with Big Ben not taking any of the pressure off of him. So yeah, I just want to get more credit to the Raiders in this one. But yeah, Steelers fans, don't be expecting playoffs this year. That's all I'm going to say. This team is pretty. It's not getting anywhere with that offense. Moving on to the Sunday Night Football game between the Chiefs and Ravens. Lamar had yet to get a win over Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs. That is now over. The Ravens win on Sunday night, prime time. Gage, what did you think of the game?
I mean, way to make me look like an idiot. I picked the Chiefs to win, obviously. And I even picked Lamar Jackson as my block for fantasy this week. And I was talking about how I started Baker Mayfield. He's got the better game script. He's got the better matchup. And I mean, Lamar Jackson puts up like double his points. My biggest concern for the Chiefs, which there's not a ton, obviously. They're the Chiefs. They're still going to play well. They're still going to get these wins. But their run defense is bad. Like bad. They look rough in that department. They remind me of the Packers early last season, where they just very much struggled against the run. They started picking up toward the end, but it's like if they can't do that, they play some tough teams that have some good running backs. So that might be the way to attack them. I don't know. We'll see. But huge win for the Ravens. I love it for Lamar Jackson. Obviously, he worked hard for that win. They pull it out late.
Yeah, Lamar just getting some of these monkeys off his back the past couple seasons. Gets the playoff win last year, gets a win against Patrick Mahomes. Nobody was picking the Ravens. Nobody but We Hoopin was picking the Ravens in this game. By the way, how we can't let We Hoopin go crazy like this. We're never allowed to have Lamar Jackson beat Patrick Mahomes ever again. No. Yeah, this was game of the year so far. I mean, the Ravens come out week 1 and have a stellar game against the Raiders and then win by 1 point versus the Chiefs. I'm going to say something that's probably going to get me some heat, but like Patrick Mahomes is pissing me off. He's a great quarterback, obviously best in the league, but like, I feel like he gets too fancy at times. He definitely gets too fancy at times. That interception that he threw. Oh my God. If you're not Patrick Mahomes, that's a throw that probably gets you cut. Like, let's be real. He had a lot of interceptions dropped last week's game. Like, Patrick Mahomes tries to get too fancy with it, tries to do these sidearm throws, these no-look throws. Yeah, they're awesome when you complete them, but they're fucking they hurt your team when
he had a lot of turnover-worthy plays last year too.
Yeah. I saw Theo made a video about that, or Theo or Bladen, someone made a video saying that he was like ranked 30th in PFF score because of those plays. But it was all about the Ravens. They played outstanding, at least against this really good Chiefs team. I know they only won by 1 and they gave up some yards, but you know, a win against the Chiefs is pretty much like a Super Bowl win at this point. Lamar did throw 2 picks. He didn't have the greatest game, but like he put his skill set on display. You took him in the first round, at the end of the first round, so he could rush for 107 yards and 2 touchdowns. Even though he's the quarterback, I think he's the most elusive player in the entire NFL, and I don't even think it's a question. Marquise Hollywood Brown finally had a game, just like Henry Ruggs had a game for a buck 13 and a touchdown. I'd like to see Mark Andrews get a little bit more involved in the offense, especially since he's on a lot of my fantasy teams. But you know, I'd like to also see Clyde Edwards-Helaire get involved. But credit the Ravens for shutting down Tyreek Hill, especially the week 1 that he had. That was crazy.
Absolutely. And Jake, before you go, real quick, I just want to say Sam Darnold has a higher PFF grade than Patrick Mahomes through 2 weeks.
Yeah, right.
Damn right he does. Damn right he does. I mean, I don't know. Are you guys shocked? Because I'm not. I mean, this man. Yeah. All right. So let's get back to the Chiefs Ravens game. Yeah. So I wasn't able to watch this game, and of course, this happens to be the game where it's probably going to be game of the year, which is great. So I just ended up watching the highlights. But yeah, from everything I saw, that was a terrible interception by Patrick Mahomes. But yeah, this Ravens team, it was really important for them to bounce back like this. It was very, very important. I remember checking the score. I want to say around halftime or so, they were down like 2 touchdowns, I want to say. And I thought the game was over. I mean, I saw Lamar Jackson's stats and I was like, oh geez, like this is not going to be a good year for him if this is how he's going to play. But throwing the ball, I still have some questions, obviously. But yeah, I can't. I have been somebody, I'm going to fully admit that I have been somebody to really just, kind of, I'm going to use the technical term of shit on his throwing, and just not give him the credit he deserves. I think he's a good thrower, but he's not a top 15 thrower in the NFL, in my opinion. But I can't separate that from his running going forward. I just can't do it. When you get Lamar Jackson, you can't at quarterback. He is going to give you the throwing and the running, and that's how you have to analyze him every time you talk about him. Because if you just look at his throwing statistics, you're like, damn, he had a bad game. But then you look at the holy shit, he rushed for over 100 yards and 2 touchdowns, and you're like, oh shit, that happens pretty much every game. That's what happens with Lamar Jackson. Nobody has been able to stop it up to this point, and I'm going to apologize for criticizing Lamar Jackson because I thought teams would be able to. They can't. I haven't seen any team stop it to go. I haven't seen it happen yet. So Lamar Jackson had a great game. I'm going to stop analyzing him as just a thrower going forward because he's more than that, and he has been more than that, and nobody's been able to stop it. He's an electric quarterback in this league. But yeah, Ravens needed this one. Chiefs, I'm sure, are going to bounce back. They're obviously still one of the best teams in the league. I could see these teams meeting up in the playoffs if that does end up happening. And I look forward to them playing more games in the future because this is always going to be, I feel like Lamar Jackson and Patrick Mahomes are constantly going to be compared, even though they weren't in the same draft class. So this is going to be an electric matchup going forward.
Yeah, awesome call by John Harbaugh to go for it on 4th down too to end the game. Like that's the type of call from an elite.
It was Lamar's call.
Yeah, true.
He was like, "You want to go for it?" And he was like, "Hell yeah, I want to go for it." So
yeah,
like
that speaks.
Actually,
I like the
that speaks volumes. That speaks volumes to how much a head coach trusts a quarterback. Yeah, what's Lamar in his 3rd year now? So just that to have that type of trust and just that your quarterback's going to get it done.
His 3rd year is a full starter.
Yeah.
First year he was the starter for like half the season or whatever.
Yeah.
He's going to get paid.
Oh yeah.
To
get a big contract.
Oh yeah.
As far as like his passing and rushing, like separating that, I feel like we talked about Ben Simmons earlier. Like if Lamar's rushing is Ben Simmons' defense, the passing is like the scoring, where he doesn't do it extremely well. But if Ben Simmons even did it at an average level, he'd be a great player in the NBA. So even if Lamar's like an average passer, he's still a great NFL quarterback.
Exactly. So yeah, let's move on. Start talking about week 3. We got the Thursday night football game coming up, and we got a doozy, ladies and gentlemen. I mean, Panthers versus Texans. Game of the year. Forget about that Sunday night football game. Okay. This is 2 dominant teams just going at each other for who wants to be. I mean, this could very well be a Super Bowl matchup. We don't know. At this point. But no. So Panthers at Texans. Gage, who you got?
I'm taking the Panthers. I'll say 28-10. I really think it's going to be, and I think if those 10 points come, they come late, probably in like garbage time. Maybe the Panthers have taken their starters out at that point. Davis Mills is starting the game because Tyrod Taylor's hurt. So I got to take the Panthers.
Yeah. Where is the game? Is it in Carolina?
It's in Houston.
Houston. All right. Well, then only give me Panthers by like 15 then. give me Panthers 33-17. I chose Davis Mills as I think I chose Davis Mills as my breakout player for the AFC South. Mainly because I knew he was going to get in the game. You're not going to start Tyrod Taylor the entire season. By the way, Tyrod Taylor might have the most unlucky career out of any player in the NFL because everywhere he goes, he either gets hurt at a bad time or he gets fucking shot, punctured in his lung through a doctor or from a doctor. Like It's crazy. Yeah, give me the Panthers by what, 15, 16? Yeah.
Yeah. In case you haven't heard about my love for Sam Darnold, I think that his MVP case is going to be on display in this game. I think he puts up 4 touchdowns total. So, Sped, do not give me that clown emoji if he doesn't get 4 touchdowns passing. I'm saying 4 total touchdowns for Sam Darnold. Yeah, this is going to be blowout. The Texans looked decent with Tyrod Taylor. They didn't look as bad as I thought they would be. And Tyrod Taylor was actually having a good season this season, as it's only a game and a half. But yeah, I mean, I'm going to take the Panthers in this one. Give me 26-10. Yeah.
The Texans are still technically tied for top of their division. Just throwing that out.
That's crazy. That's insane.
I mean, you said it. Super Bowl preview? Like,
it could be. It could be. We don't know. We don't know at this point. I just want to mention that Sam Darnold's MVP odds went from plus 10,000 to plus 6,600. So even Vegas is seeing it at this point, that this man is undoubtedly going to win the MVP trophy at the end of the year.
Yeah, you got to increase him after he beats the Jets, the Saints without any of their starting corners or coaches, and the Texans. I mean,
yes. All I heard were W's. That's all I heard.
Yeah.
All right, guys, that's going to do it for this episode of the Totally Unqualified podcast. We had some great things. Can't wait to see that Super Bowl matchup on Thursday. So yeah, guys, if you are listening to us on Apple, make sure to rate and review us. We do really appreciate it. And also if you're on YouTube, make sure to leave a like and hit that subscribe button. It really helps us out, and it really pushes out, our podcast to other people.
Yeah, and if you want to go follow us all on TikTok or Instagram, whatever our socials are, I'm Football Fan Zone. We have Extra Points for Gage and Jake Maltese 3. So make sure to go run that up and go follow us, because we post a lot more content on there than we do here.
Especially the Totally Unqualified Instagram. If you haven't followed that yet, it is Totally Unqualified Pod. We have posts every single day on there. If you want to see Luke get clowned, that's the place to do it. Sped is always finding a way to do it. So be sure to check it out.